Well, I'd very much like today to talk about the homes that we ourselves run for disabled people. And I'd like to tell you the way in which we are trying to make them really a home. Because those that we're looking after are nearly all people who've become disabled or paralyzed, and as far as one knows, they're never going to get better. And so all their lives they've got to live away from their own home. It's impossible for them to live at home. The day may come when it's possible for a great many of them to live at home, but that day hasn't come yet. And so what we are trying to do essentially is to make them feel at home. Just be themselves, lead the kind of life they want. We want our home to be really home to them, so that they can feel they belong there and they're wanted. In fact, the only reason that I myself came in to do this, some 30 years ago now, was that I stumbled across an old man, elderly man of 75, dying of cancer, whom the hospital couldn't keep for the reason that they wanted his bed for others whom they could treat. And so this set me on the path of the disabled people that had nowhere to go. In his case, he was old and he didn't have long to live, and I had somewhere that I could take him and look after him, and I thought that would be the end of it. But it wasn't. There was then an old lady of 91. She was a bit more to look after. Granny, I used to call her. And then others. And then eventually I realized that the real need in this country is for the young adult, the teenage upwards. Not only this country, but every country in the world. This is the lowest priority up until now in all medical and social services. And as I say, what we're trying to do is to make them feel at home and to make them feel that there's a purpose to their life. Because just picture if you've suddenly become paralyzed, disabled, unable to live at home, unable to fulfill the hopes that you had, your life is broken. And so you want to rebuild it. And now the truth is that today we've made great progress in technology and so on. We've become aware of this problem, and there's hardly anybody given the right help who can't do something useful, get back something of his independence. That's one thing, of course, but the other thing is the human aspect of making him feel wanted. And one thing that has struck me so much ever since I started, almost the very year that I started, is the interest of young people. When I say young, I mean from 7, 8 years upwards, right up through the teens. And this is growing and growing and growing, so that today we can almost say that a very large part of the help that we're getting is coming from young people. And it's something to me quite extraordinary, because in the world that I brought up, we knew nothing about it. We knew nothing about the underprivileged world. We knew nothing about disabled people, or very few of us did. Something quite new. And I must tell you the day that it started, because it's something burned in my mind that I'm never going to forget. We had our second home in a derelict hut, an RAF hut, on an abandoned RAF station right down in the windy part of Cornwall near the Lizard, where the sea winds had blown over and broken the panes of glass, and the salt had got in, cows had got in. It's a completely derelict building, but the reason we took it was because we'd get it for nothing. And we could get people to come and help rebuild it. Even the sailors from the Navy station at Fleet Air on Caldrose came over and helped. But come the first Christmas, when we had 8 residents, as we call them, 8 disabled people, the problem was we had no proper dinner. And we didn't have enough money in the bank to go and buy a turkey or something nice. And down in the nearby village of Ruin Minor, about 4 miles away, a little boy of 11 had won a duck in a raffle. And all on his own, without telling his mother, he decided to give it to us. And he walked on his own all the way up the 4 miles to the home. And Christmas Eve, knocked on the door and gave us the duck. And that made our first Christmas dinner. And ever since then, we've had more and more young people coming forward to do something.
You don't mind my saying so, sir. I think it would be better if you did it this way.
Oh, I see. Oh, thank you, Hattie. I'm not used to it, you see. Just as well he's there to tell me, isn't it?
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
If I mention an absolute extreme case in the other part of England, up in Lancashire, North Lancashire, where they've had to raise £50,000 to renovate a building, more than half that sum has been raised by local schools on their, what they call the Desert Trek. That's a sponsored walk along the sand, the Desert Trek. But the fact is, of course, that it isn't really the big things that, although obviously we need them, that we're looking for. We're looking for all kinds of help. And I think that one thing that today is lacking, and that people are not so willing to give, is time. And if you can picture somebody in a wheelchair, in that wheelchair all day, except when he's put into bed, he's probably got to be put into bed with a hoist because he's heavy to lift. He sees the same faces round him all the time. Just picture what it means to him if somebody comes along, interested enough in him to come and listen to him, write a letter for him, read to him, or even just be with him. And a lot of these people, as I say, are young. So what they want is somebody who's interested in the same things that they're interested in. For instance, somebody who's interested in pop and will come and talk pop. I mean, I can't talk pop with him, but you may be able to talk pop with him and play a record with him and enjoy it, because we all know how we like to share things. And this very fact that people who live nearby will come in and do something, maybe help somebody give him his tea, help shave him, clean his wheelchair, because very often wheelchairs get muddied and somebody's got to clean them. All this is not only augmenting the staff in the home, because we have to have obviously a nucleus of paid staff, regular trained staff, but in order to cut the costs down, we need to augment it with voluntary help. So we're looking for voluntary help, whom in fact normally we call the slaves. And they come from different countries, nearly always in the younger age groups, and some of them will spend a fortnight, some will spend a little longer between college and a job, or between school and college, or an evening just when you happen to have one. We had one little group of children, aged only 7 to 11, and they got extraordinary initiative, I find, children. They think of things that you could never possibly think of. They decided to organize what they called a sponsored shut-up. And the idea was that they went along to their parents and said, "Will you give me 25p for every quarter of an hour that I can keep quiet?" Well, the parents are only too willing. I mean, they'd never known their child keep quiet for 15 minutes. And they borrowed the local church, and the vicar sat in the church to make certain that everything, no cheating. They were allowed to take books and simple toys, and I'm sure you won't believe it. They kept quiet for 6¼ hours. And you can imagine what the parents said when they were faced with the bill. And they sent us £167, just a little group of children aged between 7 and 11, all their own idea. So I'm trying to say that there's a whole range of things that anybody can do, from adopting a room, coming and painting it and washing it down, and perhaps the girls will come and do the curtains and so on, to just on your own visiting one person. Even the humblest thing is going to mean an enormous amount to the person that you do it for. And I find that the residents, the disabled people that we have, especially the slightly older ones, love being visited by a child or by a teenager. For example, they don't often go out of the home. It's not easy. We have, most homes have got a bus, and the bus will take them out, but they're like an escort. Somebody's got to push them around, take them to see the things that they want. They don't want to just be herded round wherever somebody decides they should go. It's this personal giving of yourself to another person for a time. And this is what's going to make all the difference to the old person's life, even if all that you do is kneel down and do his shoelace up.